Maumelle Civil Service Commission meeting to order. Do we have any public comments? Chief Williams, if you would come to the podium, please. I think this is your last go-around with us.
We were talking about that with dispatch when they came there.
Well, I want to congratulate you on a great career.
Well, thank you.
Thank you for all the people in Maumelle. You've had a very unique opportunity when you came over here to kind of create a department in your own image, and you have. And of all the places I've lived, I don't think I've ever lived anywhere where the police department enjoyed as much respect
Oh, wow.
and cooperation from the public. And that's a reflection of everybody in your department, but it all started with you. And I've told you before, one of the cool things about serving on this commission is watching over the years officers come through for promotion and watch their poise and professionalism get better every year. That doesn't just happen. You have to create that environment. And you did. So thank you for everything you've done for Maumelle.
Oh, wow. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
All right.
Should have listened to a little bit of that.
I've got some written remarks if you'd like for her to have them seen. Probably not.
Give her a test later on.
Under old business, July meeting was canceled due to a lack of agenda items, so we need to read and approve the June commission regular meeting minutes.
Chairman, I do have one correction, if you will, sir.
Yes, sir.
Under the new business section of the June meeting minutes,
Yes, sir.
the report of the June 8th entry-level police exam, the test was administered to 20 people, however, we had 11 passing rather than 10. So
Okay.
just wanted to update the record on that.
Say that again.
So the number passing on there, update to 11. It was originally reported as 10.
50%.
Okay.
I think at that time, we had estimated about half would have passed. Upon final count, that was 11.
Can you find it there?
Yeah.
So we need a motion to approve with that one change.
I'll make a motion to approve with that one exception, and the rest of it is written.
Have a motion, do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say yes?
Yes.
Anybody opposed say no. Motion carries. Under new business, the fire department has a couple of items, so Chief Ezell, if you get up and tell us what's going on.
I will do that. All right, so, we moved up testing by a week this year, and I kind of touched on, I said we'd kind of go on a case-by-case basis. I actually had two individuals that brought concerns to me. One is due to have a baby the week that we had the testing slated. The other one, because of moving the testing up a week, would not have been eligible. And that's kind of where my second part comes in. So I would like to move everything this year to the 29th of January, just to encompass everybody on that. And then the second item that's on the agenda, okay.
Mr. HR, does that cause any problems for you?
The testing on that date, I do have that date open on the calendar right now. That does get to one of our final dates before W-2s and ACA reports have to be sent out. Are you asking for all 3 ranks that would be tested to be tested on the same day?
Correct.
So all on.
We should all be able to fit in one room. I mean, it's not like you can cheat off one another, off the lieutenants, captains, or battalion chief exam.
Right, right. I don't have any objections with that. That'll free up the 15th and 16th from my calendar. I'll just move the HR reporting that's due at the end of the month to free up 2 days for 1 day. I'll exchange it. That's something like no consequence.
Any discussion from the commission?
In other words, you're moving up, you're wanting to move up 2 weeks, not 1 week.
Move it back,
Moving back
right.
from January
Yeah, so the whole
15th?
reason we moved it up, so we're going from the 15th and 16th up to the 29th. Because the next week is when we have done it past 3 years in that week, and we moved it up because of the holiday and payroll during that, if you guys remember that conversation.
So we're moving it from the January 15th and 16th
To all of it on the 29th
to
for
the
us,
29th,
correct.
which is not moving it back, it's moving it forward, right? If you move from the 15th to the 16th, you're not moving backwards, you're moving forward.
Or we're moving it later
Oh.
in the month.
Depends on how
Okay.
you look at it, but yeah, it is later in the month.
It's later in the month, but it's forward on the calendar.
Right.
Okay. Didn't quite understand that myself.
Is that's gonna give enough time to have all the other requirements done for us to do the interviews, correct, in February?
Target date for completion February 28th.
Yeah, it shouldn't
Okay.
affect that at all.
Shouldn't affect us.
And Mr. HR doesn't have a problem with that?
I don't. Yeah, my main concern was the 20th would have been the holiday. The 24th is a payroll date, so therefore that is a payroll week. And if we had done testing on those 3 days, that would have taken all of my payroll processing dates to be able to do that in addition to all of the monthly and annual reporting. So moving it to the 29th does not affect any of the holiday or the payroll week. And like I said, it frees up 2 days for me where it only takes up 1. So I'm good.
Do we need a motion?
Any more discussion? Then I'll entertain a motion.
I move we accept that January the 29th for all applicant testing for the fire department.
Have a motion, do I hear a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, no. Motion carries.
Who seconded it? Ray.
Now to your next item.
Give us a toss-up. Okay, so along those same lines, in order to ward off any future events where we can move the testing wherever, I would like to see us set, at least for my side anyway, I can't speak for the police department, but for the fire department, I would like to see a January 1st. If you don't have your eligibility in by January 1st, you're not eligible to test that year. Just to keep something like what we've got going on here for future reference. And it should not, if it affects anybody, it'll be 2 years down the line and it'll be by a few days. But, I mean, in order to be fair, I'd like to see us like have a January 1st cutoff. If you don't have 2 years in by January 1st, you don't get to test that year. Just so that in case we have another situation like this where we need to move stuff up and around, we can do that without somebody saying, well, that's not fair, you made me miss by a week or by 1 day or 2 days or whatever, so.
Would that be for new appointees or for people who just applicants for advancement?
No, yeah, just promotional stuff, yeah.
From the way we understand it, or the way I understand it, is that it still cuts off at 30 days before the test by default.
That wouldn't be 30 days.
Well, on page 8 of your rules and regs, under minimum requirements,
Minimum, yeah.
the very last sentence is unless otherwise specified.
Unless otherwise specified.
The closing date shall be 30 days prior to the examination.
Is that for eligibility or is that for the application to be in?
I read that as when the application has eligibility. Somebody else might interpret that differently.
Well, it says no person shall be eligible for for examination for examination for advancement from lower ranks to higher ranks until the person has done all that. And it says eligibility shall be determined as of the closing date of the promotion exam as set forth by the Civil Service Commission and as advertised by the Department of Human Service. Unless otherwise specified, the closing date shall be 30 days prior to the examination.
I guess that's a question for the city attorney.
I'm reading it,
How are you?
I'm reading through it a second time right now.
It says that we can change the date, but by default, it's 30 days before, so 29th would
Well,
put
he's
it.
Well, I think that's application date, though. I don't think that's, so I'm looking, it's not application date?
Examination for advancement.
Here you go. Do you wanna look? At what the reference
It
is?
is specifically for advancement for application.
Minimum,
So,
minimum
if you look
requirements.
here, minimum requirements under promotions. So it says, unless otherwise specified, the closing date shall be 30 days prior to the examination and eligible to be examined for advancement. Eligibility shall be determined as of the closing date of the promotional exams. So the closing date is 30 days by default prior to the exam, unless otherwise specified by the commission.
Okay, so we may.
Okay, I think that's the eligibility date, though. I think he's talking about an application date. There's another provision on down on page, and I'm sorry, I'll, I'll get better with these rules eventually. When a promotional examination is to be open to, no, that's external applicants. I'm sorry. I think we may need to look to make sure there's not anything else on application, and I can't look that fast. I mean, I can't take it all in that fast.
Give me an example of what you're talking about. I mean, if we had somebody that joined in January, just,
Yeah, if we had a January 15th date that they hired, and then 2 years later, say the cutoff date was December 29th or December 30th, what have you, but they're going to be eligible on the 15th, but we're not testing until the 24th, would that person be allowed to submit an application?
well, there's some other language in here, except in case of emergency, which emergency shall be determined by the Civil Service Commission. So we got a workaround on this if we want,
Okay,
without changing anything.
okay. But you think that covers us so that actually 30 days prior to test date is the date the application has to be turned in, plus you have to have your anniversary date in on that?
We could ask the city attorney, but it seems like it says no person shall be eligible for examination for advancement. And then you meet those requirements.
Except in the case of emergency, which shall be determined by the
Right.
Civil Service
Right.
Commission.
What page are you on that one?
I'm on 8.
You're still on 8? Okay.
Yeah, under minimum requirements, that's the third line.
I think what he's saying is that's the eligibility determination, but do we also have an application deadline? Like if you are eligible, but you also want to have to apply, not all eligible individuals may apply. So when is the cutoff for the applications for all eligible people?
That was the way I was reading that, is that you can turn your application in on December 29th. My anniversary date's not till January 15th, and if the test is the 22nd, I'm eligible to test.
Unless we declare an emergency and say you can. We can still do that.
I think, city attorney, page 10, notice of examination. It just says that we've got to provide public notice of competitive examination at least 10 days in advance of the closing date for receipt of applications. I don't see anywhere where it states where we have to cut off specifically time frame for the applications. I believe that is arbitrary and can be set by the commission at any time.
Okay, that's what I was reading before I read the.
I do not believe it changes eligibility, in my opinion, but
Right, no, I don't think that, I think that's a different, it's two different things that we're looking at.
I think we got the eligibility part
Two.
covered with the ability to declare an emergency. So I think we got that part covered.
Just looking quickly, I'm not seeing where it mandates a particular deadline for application cutoff, as long as you give notice, the notice 10 days before when you're going to set that application cutoff.
So it is strictly eligibility by years of service is what that is talking about.
That's for application, right?
Eligibility for the exam is the 30 days prior to the exam unless.
Okay, then we're good, then we're covered if we've got that, if that's what that means.
Eligibility is the time and service.
Correct, yep.
Right.
So,
Okay.
like I said, I think application date has no bearing on eligibility.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And we can modify eligibility if we feel the
In
need.
cases of emergency, and I think, some of those
Okay.
could be proposed to the commission
Right.
under emergency situation.
Okay,
I mean, if you have people that you want to be testing or tested, and they're coming up on some deadline, I mean, I am always open to listening to what any chief says he needs on an emergency situation.
well, that was the whole gist of why I was trying to clear this up. If there was not, that is not the way I took the meaning of that, but that's why I'm not sitting in her chair. But no, I wanted to clarify that just so we didn't have any confusion at a later date to where somebody could go, well, you set the date for this date, and if you'd have waited another week, I could have tested. So if we've already got a provision in there that says a 30-day, prior to the test date, you have to have your anniversary date in, then we're set already. So,
We're okay.
okay.
So actually what you're asking for by asking for a firm eligibility date, you're doing away with the case-by-case thing.
Right,
You're
right.
not gonna do it case by case. Everybody has to adhere to this one sentence.
That is strictly what I was trying to do, was set that for eligibility based upon years of service. If Jared's one of my firefighters and he says, hey, we're having a baby this week and they're doing a C-section on the day that you're having the test, I'm probably gonna come up here before you again and ask on a case-by-case basis to do that, so. But I think we're good on the other. I just didn't interpret that the way the city attorney did, but that's why she gets paid the big dollars. So.
That leaves us the most.
Well, she gets paid the big
flexibility.
bucks.
Always like that.
Right, okay. All right, that's all I have.
Mr. Mayor.
I just wanted to point out a concern that I think is what spurred this on. If this commission is choosing a date, say in January, and some years it's on, let's just say January 15th, and then the next year it's in the last week of January. That would mean that in some years, someone who came in the third week of January would be eligible to test, and then the next year they wouldn't be eligible, or that time frame could possibly move around a bit. I guess the eligibility would go there. So the question that I heard was more about the variability, and that when this commission is choosing a testing date, without thinking about it, it's also choosing who's eligible to test. And if y'all chose a constant eligibility date, then you wouldn't be inherently also choosing who's eligible and who's not when selecting the dates.
And that, one of the things I was gonna ask is, if it's within 30 days, so like this year, next year it's gonna be on January 29th, would we also should make a provision to say, okay, with an eligibility cutoff date of January 1st? That way, it's always January 1st, because if we put a hard date, then say we move the test back to March for whatever reason, then we can't use the 30 days, we gotta use January 1st. And we may wanna use that 30 days. But if it's less than 30 days, maybe we say, we'll have it at January 29th with the cutoff date of January 1st. Because it says we can do that, unless otherwise specified, right?
Right, eligibility should be determined as of the closing date of the promotional exam as set forth by the Civil Service Commission and as advertised by the Department of Human Resources unless otherwise specified, so you can specify it.
Right.
The closing date shall be 30 days prior to the examination.
And that will always make sure that it's January 1st, at least. Or whatever. I mean, in that way, if we get into moving it out to March, we can also put a closing date of, if we want it to be the, you know, if it's the 15th of March, we can give a specific date and kind of move from there. I don't know if we want to keep the wording the way it is and maybe add a cutoff date for these tests.
I personally think
Or-
we have flexibility to do what we need to do without changing a thing, and when we can do that,
Yeah.
I always like to do it that way.
Yeah, I'd like to keep it where we have a little bit of flexibility there,
Right.
instead of trying to make it a hard.
You know, it just, the world just doesn't work perfect, it just
Right.
doesn't.
It doesn't?
Nope. I just learned that the other day.
Mr. Chairman, may I make a recommendation for consideration?
Yes, sir.
It says under page 11 for written examination dates, the Department of HR is authorized to advertise and hold promotional testing during the 4th week of January of each year, and more often if necessary. I believe by making that, if we are to move or make a recommendation off of the 4th week of January, that you consider setting a separate closing date, if it's going to be moved outside of that time frame.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, I believe you are consistent and fair in that date, being consistently in the 4th week of January, as long as it is not adjusted or moved. Something to consider, if you will.
I'm still looking for that language. I'm on page
Then
11.
the second sentence of written examination dates, under
I don't have that on page.
Page 11? I don't even have that on.
It's not on the page 11 for me.
Not mine either.
It's on 10 for me. It's at the bottom of 10.
Yeah. That's what I
What's the subheading that's under?
written examinations.
I don't have it.
I don't even have that. We got evaluation dates.
Which one do you have?
I'm looking
It's,
at it online.
This is the one that was
Okay, it's on
adopted in,
Page 5 for me.
this is the one that was adopted in February the 11th.
Oh, you're right.
I thought we changed all that.
Should be after suspension of competition. It should be the next category. That's where it is on mine. Which is maybe the same language, it's just called something different.
Right, yeah, that's it.
No, that's not it.
You find it? Huh?
I'm looking.
New hire? Yeah, new hire.
Okay, I've got it, yes.
Evaluation
So it is
dates
under
on the
page
older
10, excuse
version.
me.
Under evaluation dates.
There it is.
Sorry.
Okay. All right.
I think I blew up the font size on my copy, so I can read it better. It's on the bottom of page 10.
Mine's on 11.
Mine's on
Yours on 11?
Yeah.
Well, thank goodness we've all got it, though. Starting to get worried here.
11. No, no.
So your point, I'm trying to understand, Mr. HR Director, is if we go outside of the 4th week of January, we can make the cutoff date for applications different.
The closing date.
Closing date.
Yes, whichever
Application's
direction you
different.
move it off of the 4th week of January to make it applicable to roughly the same time frame.
So I think
In this case, since we have moved it, this would be potentially an opportunity to do so.
Right. So what have we moved out of the 4th week of January?
So the 4th week of January would be
29th is outside of the fourth week, isn't
The
it?
Must
fourth
be the
week of
5th.
January would be the 20th through the 24th of January 2020.
Okay.
Okay.
So we
So-
weren't,
So we're on to the 5th week.
the other two weren't in the fourth week either, were they?
Okay, so we need a motion to move the, I'm calling it cutoff
Closing
date.
date.
Closing
Closing
date to some other date.
Do we need to do it for the police too?
This is the eligibility closing date,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Okay.
Well,
What is it now?
It's 30 days before.
we moved it tonight to the 29th.
The testing date?
Yes, which is outside of that fourth week of January that's in our regs. So, would we clean this up in this particular case by passing a motion that the, tell me the term again, not cutoff date,
Closing date. for
closing
eligibility.
date for eligibility be January 1?
That's what I was thinking.
So I will tell you, according to my calendar, 30 days prior to the fourth week of January would have been the 21st of December for what would have been the Tuesday police exam. And then corresponding the 22nd for fire lieutenant and captain, and the 23rd of December for fire battalion chief. So by moving police to the 14th, we would move, you would then declare, if you will, that same fourth week number, which would be the 21st of December as the closing date for police exam. And then the 22nd and or 23rd of December declared.
For fire.
Does that make sense?
It's starting to.
Okay.
December 21st or 2nd for fire.
21st for police, and then 22nd and 23rd for fire lieutenant captain and battalion chief respectively.
Okay.
So those would have been the 30 days prior to the fourth week of January closing dates.
So we need a motion, if we're so inclined, to move the police department closing dates to December 21st. Move which fire positions to December
Lieutenant.
21st
Lieutenant and captain to the 22nd,
to the 22nd,
and battalion chief to the 23rd.
battalion chief to the 23rd.
Doesn't the 30 days already cover that, though?
Well, it moves it beyond, so if we were moving the fire date to the 29th, then that would encompass
Okay.
another
Okay.
7 days of eligibility
Okay.
that would not have normally
Would not
been
have
there.
been there.
So, like I said, in keeping the 30-day threshold. That would be where it would be for all normative years.
Due to the fact that we moved it out of the fourth week of December, or of January, I need a motion that we move the closing period for the police department to December 21. Move the closing period for lieutenant and captain, fire captain, to December 22nd. And move the closing period for battalion chief to December 23rd.
Right. But didn't we put all those on one day for the firemen? The 29th? Well, you're talking about from the original dates?
The
Okay.
original
All right,
dates,
all right,
yes.
all right. Now I'm following. Okay.
Clear as mud.
That's all right. All right.
All right, then I'll make that motion.
No,
You gonna make it?
Yeah, hold on a second. All right, I'll make a motion to place the exam closing dates for police exam to 12/21/2019. Make a motion to take the fire exams closing date to 12/22 for lieutenant and fire captain, 12/23 for fire battalion chief for 2019.
I believe you got it. Any, do we hear a second?
Seconded.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say yes.
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 Any opposed, no. Motion carries. All right, any additional comments? If not, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Whoop.
One thing, so, in looking at the, availability calendar for examinations for the annual testing, the room that we typically test in over in the Parks Department is only available on Saturday, October 5th. That puts us in the first Saturday of October for annual testing for entry-level police and entry-level fire. So I would recommend to the commission that the date for examination be October 5th for those two respectively. And then I will follow up by making the advertisements at least 10 days prior to the application closure, according to our commission rules.
I will entertain a motion. You may have to explain it again.
Entry-level testing date for police and fire on Saturday, October 5th, 2019.
That's the day you want to have it.
Testing date, yes.
Make a motion for October 5th, 2019 for police entrance exam test
And fire.
and fire.
And fire, okay. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say yes.
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 Any opposed, no. Motion carries.
Now I'm done.
Now he's done. So, no further business, no additional comments. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion to adjourn and a second. Any discussion? Nope. All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? No. We are adjourned.
Did you say yes?